Welcome to EC Tool and Technical Skills. Today I would like to explain about the concept of constructor in C++. What is constructor in C++? Constructor is a special member function and same name as the class name. Why we are going to call this is a special member function? First of all, we should know what is called as a member function. So in this program, I would like to explain about the concept of normal member function. A member function having the syntax data type followed by the method name and parenthesis curly braces. Inside you have to write down the instructions. If you want to call this method, you have to go with the syntax object dot method name and parenthesis semicolon. So this is a way to call this respective method. So this is a normal member function. Then how we are going to tell that constructor is a special member function. If you want to have any method along with the same name as a class name, we can call it as a constructor name. And one more important thing, if you want to mention as a constructor and the constructor does not have any explicit function call, this is the normal way to call any method, but in constructor part there is no explicit function call like this. If you are going to create the object for the given class itself, the constructor part will be executed and the memory will be allotted for the given class, and this is called as a constructor. Constructor does not have any return type. Why? Because this is a main task used to create the and initialize the objects. Characteristics of constructor in C++. Constructor can be either public, private and protected. So by default you have to mention as a public. Why? Because you can able to access anywhere of the program. So inside the program as well as outside the program and the group of package program also you can able to access the constructors. Constructor can be, if you are going to mention anything like a private, within the program only you can access. Constructor in C++ cannot be inherited. However, the derived class can able to access the parent class constructor. Constructor functions are not inherited and their addresses cannot be shared. Constructor in C++ cannot be virtual. Types of constructor in C++. Default constructor, parameterized constructor, copy constructor and dynamic constructor. Default constructor. A constructor does not have any parameter is called as a default constructor, and it will not allow to receive any parameters inside the placeholder. Every class object is initialized with some default values through the help of the constructor. Even if the constructor is not defined explicitly, by default the compiler will take the implicit constructor, that is called as a default constructor. So the default constructor does not have any parameters. This is an example for constructor. So our class name is called as employee and the method name is called as employee. So here they don't have any return type and there is no data type for the given method. So here the method name is same as the class name, so we can call that this is constructor. And why we are going to call this is called as a default constructor? Why? Because this constructor does not receive any values like arguments. And this is the main function. Inside the main function we have to create the object. So whenever we are going to create the object itself, the constructor part will be executed and the values whatever we are assigning, that will be get initialized. And suppose if you want to print this one, you can able to call through the help of the object and finally we may get the answer as 50. And this is the way we have to execute the default constructor. So the default constructor does not allow any parameters, so that is called as a default constructor. Suppose if we are not assigning like a default constructor, the compiler will takes the default constructor implicit. So the constructor name same name as class name and does not receive any parameter is called as default constructor. The next one is called as a parameterized constructor. If the constructor may receive any input through the help of the function call as well as it will receive the input through the help of the function definition, we can call it as parameterized constructor. So we are going to receive some inputs through the help of the function call. Using the default constructor we can't able to pass any arguments. Through the help of the parameterized constructor we can pass the arguments through the help of the object. So in this parameter constructor you can pass a number of arguments according to the memory size. You can fix any number of arguments inside the placeholder. In this program I would like to explain about the concept of parameterized constructor. So what is called as parameterized constructor? So if the constructor may have the parameter is called as parameterized constructor. So while we creating the object, so while we passing the value through the help of the object, we are going to call the respective constructor part while we creating the object. So this x will be received once the object is created. This 40 will be passed to the help of the respective object. So this x will be received the value of 40 and we have some operations. Through the help of some operations we can able to achieve this answer. So the next we can able to create a number of objects in the given class. So likewise I created one more object is called as C2. So while we creating the C2, the constructor part will get initialized once again and we will pass the value like 30. So this x will be receive the value of 30 and pass to the age. And the next object is called as C3. So you can create a number of objects for the given class. So whenever we are going to create the object for the given class, the constructor part will be executed. If the object may have the parameter, the parameterized constructor will receive the value from the object and it will do some process for the given instruction. And this is the way we have to execute the parameterized constructor. So what is called as parameterized constructor? A constructor part must have the argument is called as parameterized constructor. How will you achieve this? Through the help of the object along with the parameter. While you creating the object itself, you have to pass the arguments. Why? Because there is no explicit function call to pass the argument. So this is what we can call that this is a special member function. Copy constructor. So copy constructor is a type of the constructor. If the object is already created and those objects will be stored to some other object, through the help of the new object we can able to get the exact copy of the previous object. So once we have the value of the previous object, that will be accessed with the help of the new object. So this is called as a copy constructor. Through the help of the equal to symbol we can achieve this. If you want to store the same values to the some other object, just go with the copy constructor. There are two types of copy constructors are there. One is called as a default copy constructor and one is called as a user defined copy constructor. Default copy constructor is a shallow copy constructor. User defined copy constructor is called as deep copy constructor. We will see in deep. Shallow copy. Default copy constructor can produce the shallow copy. Shallow copy means if the objects, one or more objects may going to share the common memory space. If the common memory space is shared by one or more objects, if you want to change anything on one object, that will affect the another object because every objects are going to share the common memory space. According to this example, here if you want to change the breadth as 12, if the 12 is affected by another object also, may another object also going to store breadth as a 12. So this is what the shallow copy will be work. If you want to change anything on the given object, that will affect the another object also because the copy will be stored in the another object. So this is called as a shallow copy. In this program, I would like to explain about the shallow copy. So what is called a shallow copy? If I change in one object values, the object values will be affected by another object also. So in this example, the name of the class is called as a shallow copy. So here one constructor is I mentioned. So in this constructor, I like to pass the argument as a x. So in this constructor, we have two statements are there. One is called as variable is equal to new in, which means that we are going to create the new memory space for the given variable is called as var. And the next one, the x value will be stored to the respective variable through the help of the pointer. So in this pointer only going to access the respective memory location. And here we are going to have one method is called as set value. If you want to receive the new value and the value will be stored to the some other variable through the help of the pointer. And this is called as a get method. In this get method we are going to return the, we are going to print the value through the help of the star var. So in this main function, we have the object is called as obj1. So once the object is created, number 7 will be passed to the respective constructor is called as shallow copy int x. And this x will be stored the value called as 7. And here we created one memory space as a runtime and that memory space will be shared with the help of x. That is called as 7 will be stored in the respective var star var. And next we are going to copy this object into the next object. And now we are going to, before value change, we are going to print the value. And here the object 1 get value and object 2 get value, we are going to call two methods, and object 1 and object 2 we are going to call 2 times. So once we call this method, the respective function definition will be work. So in this star var we are going to receive the value and the received value is called as 7 because we already passed the value called as 7. And this 7 will be passed to the constructor part, and this constructor we have the variable is called as x, and this x going to access the new memory location of var, and in this new memory location will be accessed with the help of the star var. And now this star var going to have the value of 7. So while we going to call with the first object, it will get the value as 7. And second time if you are going to call the second object through the help of the obj2 get value, we may get the answer is called as 7. And now we are going to change the value. So set value is called as a 20. Now in this method we will going to receive the value like 20. So once the value will be received and that will be assigned to the star var. So now if you want to change one object value and that will affect the another object, now we are going to print the object 1 get value and object 2 get value function. So according to this example, we have to receive the output like 20 and 20. Why? Because the first object is changed with the help of the respective object creation. So here set value we are 20, which means that while we calling this function itself, while we are going to call the respective definition part, here we are going to change the value like 20. If the pointer is pointing to the same memory location, we are going to change our values in one object, and that will be affected to the another object also. So this concept is called as shallow copy in the copy constructor. So copy constructor is used to copying one object to another object using the help of the equal to symbol. So this assignment symbol is used to copying right hand side values to the left hand side. So whatever the values having in the object 1, and that will be stored to the object 2. So this concept is called as copy constructor, and the copy constructor having two types of copies are there. One is called as shallow copy, and one is called as a deep copy. In this shallow copy, if you are going to change in one object and that will affect the another object, is called as shallow copy. The next concept is called deep copy. So deep copy dynamically allocating the memory space for each and every time to store the values of the given object, and the distinct memory location will be maintained, so there is no conflict. If I change object values in one object, and that will not affect the another object, because the both objects are using the distinct memory location, which means that every time if you are going to change one object value, that will not affect the another one. So this is called as a deep copy. So deep copy is called as a user defined constructor. In this diagram, there is a two objects are there. One is called as a b1 and one is called as a b2. In this b1 can have the value like 12 and b2 can have the value like 12, because one object is copied to another object. So the both copies are present in different memory location, that is called as a distant memory location. If I change this b1 12, that will not affect the b2 12. Why? Because both are sharing the distinct memory location. This is an example for deep copy. So what is called as a deep copy? If the copy of one constructor is changed, the values may change, that will not affect the another object. This is called as a deep copy. So what is called as a deep copy? If you want to change the one object value, that will not be affect the another object values. Why? Because both are accessing the distinct memory location. So in this example, our class name is called as a deep copy, and inside the program we have the constructor part is called as a deep copy. In this deep copy, we have one argument is called as int x, and this x is going to store one variable is called as a var, and the next one is called as a deep copy constructor, and here we are going to receive the object. So whenever we are going to pass any argument, if it is an integer one, you have to receive the integer one. If it is a float function call, you have to pass the argument and you have to receive the float keyword. And if you are going to pass any object, you have to receive with the help of the object only. So here this is called as a user defined constructor. If you want to define any user defined constructor, the parameter should be created by one object. So here the deep copy is our class name, and here obj is our new object name. So while we passing any object from the main function, so in this main function I created the object is called as obj1. So when we are going to create the object for the given class, immediately the constructor part will be executed. So in this constructor is called as a parameterized constructor. So number 7 will be passed to in this respect to x. So the x will be stored in the value, and that will be passed to the variable is var. And now here if you want to assign this one object to another object, which means that object 1 will be stored to the object 2. So while we passing the value from one object to another object, so this constructor part will be executed. Why? Because the copy of the object 1 will be shared to copy of the object 2. So now here this function will, this constructor part will be executed. And now if you want to pass this argument to this one, the object 2 will be received with the help of this part. So here deep copy is called as a class name. You have to create one more object to receive the copy constructor. So here ampersand obj, and this is a way to receive the input from one object to another object. And here if you want to access the respective object values through the help of the formal parameters, you have to use the dot operator to access the variable, and that will be stored to the normal variable. And this is the way we have to pass the argument from one object to another object using the help of the constructor. And while we printing the copy constructor value through the help of the object 1 and object 2, and this is called as a deep copy. So before we are exchanging the value, while we printing the object 1 and object 2, so this part will be executed. So in this part we have the value like a var, and this var will be fetched with the help of the obj1.var and obj2.var. So now we are going to get the value like 7 and 7 in both obj1 and obj2 having the value 7. Why? Because we passed to the help of the parameters constructor. And now if we are trying to change the value of the given object 1, so obj1.var is equal to 20. So if you want to store the 20 statically, the value 20 will be stored in the respective variable, and once we assigned this one, the variable will be having the value like a 20. And now if you want to print both values of var in obj1 and obj2, we may get the answer like this. Here obj variable is 20 and that is not affected by the obj2 of the var. So here we are obj2, we are having the value like still 7 only, because both objects are accessing the distinct memory location. There is no shared memory location. If you want to change the parent's value as well as to the child value, which means that object 1 value will be affected by another value, just go with the shallow copy. If you want to maintain both distinct value, because both values will not, one value will not be affected by another value, that means one object will not affect another value, go with the deep copy. So deep copy means both are maintaining the distant memory location, and shallow copy means you have to maintain the common memory space. So if you are changing in one object, that will affect the another object. So that is what in the deep copy we may get the different answers, I mean different value, even though if you are going to change the one object value. So this is called as deep copy. So dynamic constructor. The dynamic constructor is used to allocate the memory space of the given variable through the help of the new keyword. So this is maybe a default constructor or parameterized constructor. You can use the new keyword is used to create the memory space. So this concept is called as a dynamic constructor. So in this example, I would like to explain about the concept of dynamic constructor. In this example, here the class name is called as employee, and here we are going to have one member is called as int star due projects, and this is called as a constructor part. In this constructor part, we have one keyword is called as a new keyword. So through the help of the new keyword, we are going to create the new memory space, and this is the way we have to create the dynamic constructor at the runtime. So in this variable can have the new memory location with the help of the new int keyword. So new operator is used to create the new memory location for the given variable and the type. And here initial value of the default constructor for the given member is called as a 0. And here this is another constructor. This constructor is called as a parameterized constructor, and in this parameterized constructor is going to receive one value. The new operator is here I again used here to create the memory space for the given variable with the help of the integer type, and this x will be going to store the value, and the value will be stored in the help of due projects using the pointer. So in this main function we have to create one object is called as employee and employee1. So in this employee1 we are going to call the display method. So in this display method we are going to have the value like a due projects. Initially the due project is called as a 0, because the default constructor is work. And now we are going to create another object is called as employee2, and this is called as a parameterized constructor. We are going to pass the value like 10, and whenever we are going to pass the value to the respective constructor, it will match with respective constructor part, and here we have the constructor is there with the help of the parameters. So now in this x will receive the value like a 10, and this new memory space will be stored, and this is called as the common memory space access. We already seen in the help of the shallow copy. So here if you want to pass the value like through the help of the pointer, and they will share the common memory space. So now this 10 will be stored to the respective variable is called as a due project, and this pointer will be accessed the same shared memory location. And now if you are going to print this display, the due projects can have the value like 10, and this is called as your output. So this is the way the dynamic memory allocation will be work. So the dynamic memory allocation is similar to the shallow copy. So if you want to store the copy of one object to another object, and the one object value will be affected by another object, you can go with the dynamic constructor in the form of shallow copy. The next important concept is called as a destructor. If you want to destroy the object, just go with the concept of destructor. So destructor is going to call whenever the object is created successfully. Once the object is created and all the member function, that is called a special member function, is called as constructor, and everything will be completed successfully, then only the destructor part will be executed. So destructor is mainly used to destroying the memory space whichever we created through the help of the object. So destructor name as same name as a class name, and it will proceeds with the tilde symbol, and the destructor does not have any parameters and it not allowed to have any parameters. And finally, whenever we have to mention the destructor anywhere of the program, it will execute at the end. So the constructor, we can create the object with the help of the stack concepts, because if you want to create the first object, it will store to the bottom of your stack, that means the 0th index, that is called as the last in first out principle stack is following. If you want to have second object, that will be stored in the first index, and if you want to have the third object, the third object will be stored in the second index. Likewise, the stack will be maintained. So the object is created from bottom to top, and that will be stored in the stack from bottom to top. But if you want to have the destructor will always destroy in the reverse order of the object creation. So it will remove the top of the object at first, so which means that the object creation of 2 will be deleted, I mean the index location 2 will be deleted at first, and the next 1 will be deleted, and finally the first, whenever we created the first object, that also will be get deleted. So finally the stack become empty and the program will be terminated. So here the destructor part is going to destroying the objects in the order of uh, constructor is created. So in this constructor we can create from bottom to top, but the destructor will be start from top to bottom. That is a reverse pattern of constructor. The destructor can be placed anywhere of the program, but still the destructor can be work at the last. A destructor cannot be overload. So in the constructor we can be overload, because we can have a number of constructors with the same name of the class name. We can have the default constructor, we can have the parameterized constructor, but here you can have only one destructor for the given object. In this example, I would like to explain the concept of destructor. So what is called as a destructor? Already I said, if you want to destroying the objects in the order of creation, you just go with the concept of destructor. So destructor name is same name as a class name. So in this example, here we have the class name is called as a department. So if it is a class name is a department, the constructor name same as your function name. So this is called as a special member function. No need to call explicitly, it will call implicitly whenever the object is created. So here this is called as the main method. In this main method we have the department is there and the department d1. So this is called as an object. So once the object is created and the department class, class constructor will be executed, and here we have the statement is called as constructor invoked in the department class. So the first output is called as constructor invoked in the department class, and the next in the main method we have another statement is called as employee2. So this is called as another class and can have the object is called as e2. So once the object is created, the respective class will be executed. So in this class name is called as employee. So if the class name is employee, the constructor name also called as employee, because this is a special member function and does not have any return value, and that is what there is no data type in the employee. So here this employee constructor will be executed. So constructor is invoked in the employee class. So that is what we are getting. The second answer is called as constructor is involved in the constructor is invoked for the employee class. And now in this main method we have another thing is called as a return 0. So once the object is created and the execution is everything is over, now the destructor part will execute. So I said the constructor part able to store the object in the help of the stack concept. It will store the d1 at first, and which is called as a d1. It will stores the department constructor at first. Constructor is invoked and the department class, and next it will store the second object, because this is a concept of stack. So the first object is called as a d1 and second object is called as a d2. So it will store in the 0th index and it will store in the first index, and now all the constructor part is get initiated successfully, and now the destructor part will execute. So once all the operations of constructor is over, now we have to execute the default constructor. It will call defaultly, no need to call explicitly. So I said it will call in the reverse order. So second object creation is called as employee. So here we can get the answer is called as a destructor in invoked for the employee class at first, because the second object is created at last. So the destructor is work with the reverse order of the object creation. So in the object creation, I mean the constructor is created in the order of department class at first, and the next one is called as employee class. But the destructor will work in the reverse order. It will destroy the object whichever created at the latest. So here employee class will be deleted at first, and the employee class object will be deleted at first, and then the department class object will be deleted as last. So this concept is called as the destructor. So destructor is mainly used to destroying the objects whatever we created, but the constructor will be created in the order of stack concept. So the first constructor will be stored in the first object will be stored in the first memory location of the given stack, and second will be stored in the first index of the given stack. But the destructor will work in the reverse order. It will take from the top to bottom. So that means last in first out concept. Difference between constructor and destructor. Constructor is invoked and initialized through the help of the compiler using the objects. Then destructor is used to destroying the memory space which were created through the help of the object. So declared as a class name, and the arguments may be allowed sometimes if you are going to use the parameterized constructor. And here there is no arguments. It will proceeds with the tilde symbol as well as the class name. And constructor can be received parameters, but the destructor will not receive any parameters from the object. And constructor is used to initialize the object, and destructor is mainly target for destroying the objects. And that can be multiple constructors, because a default constructor, parameters constructor, copy constructor, but here destructor is only one. So one given class or given object we can have only one constructor. In constructor it can be multiple constructors, maybe default constructor, parameters constructor, copy constructor, like that. For destructor, it can have only one destructor for the given class. Constructor can be overloaded, destructor cannot be overloaded. What is called as overloaded? One or more constructor may have present within the class. For example, default constructor, parameters constructor, copy constructor, like that. If the constructors are more in the given class, you can be, but the destructor can't have multiple constructors in the given class. So only one destructor will be present for the given class. So constructor can be overloaded. Why? Because the constructor may have different variations, like a default constructor, parameters constructor, copy constructor, like that. But the destructor, you can have only one destructor for the given class. You can't be overload for the destructor, because the given class, a single class, can have only one destructor, and that will be executed at the last and proceeds with the tilde symbol. So this is the difference between constructor and destructor. And now we are going to see how will you overload this constructor. So constructor can be overloaded with the help of the single programs. In this program, I would like to explain about the concept of constructor overloading. So what is called as constructor overloading? One or more constructors may have present within the class. So here the class name is called as employee. So in this employee class, we can have the first constructor is called as the default constructor. I said the default constructor will able to receive only the default values for the given variable. You cannot do more than that. So this constructor does not receive any parameters. The next constructor is called as the parameterized constructor. So here the employee is there as well as the employee is there. So because this is called as the overloading. So here employee is there and employee is there. Both functions are special member functions are having both are same names, employee as well as employee. But the difference is here does not have any parameters, here having the parameters. So this is the way we have to overload the constructor. And here what is called as overloading, one or more functions may have the same function name. So this is a special member function, does not have any return value also. And here this is called as the arguments which is received with the help of the object. So here this is a normal display function. In this display function we are going to print something. And this main function, we have the object is called as employee1. So in this employee1 we are going to display the initial value of the employee. So here you may get the answer. The initial value of the employee is called as, name is Infosys, and age is called as 0. So in this part we are going to display, it will call the respective definition part. It has the value like ename and age, and this will be allotted with the help of the default constructor. And the default value of the given variable is called as Infosys, I assign, and the age is equal to 0. This is assigned by default. And while we calling this respective method, it will call the respective definition part, and we will be able to get the answer like name equal to Infosys and age equal to 0. And now we are going to create another object is called as employee2, and this employee2 may going to forward two values. One is called as Sam and another one is 22. So this is called as a parameters constructor. It will call the respective definition and it will call the respective special member function is like a parameters constructor. In this part we have two arguments, name and age, and this name will be stored as the name and age will be stored to the age. And while we calling this second time employee2, and here we are going to have the copy constructor, and this copy constructor is going to copy one object value to the another object value. So while we printing this employee2 display, because employee2 I already assigned the value Sam and 22, and this employee2 display will respect to it will, and employee2 display, while we calling this respective method definitions will be called. And this in this part we have the e name and e age, and e name and age will be getting through the help of the parameters constructor. Here we have the name and age is called as Sam and 22, and that is what we are going to get the employee2 can have the value. So in this display part, employee2 dot display, and this method will be called the help of the respective function call. Here we will get the answer is called as Sam and age 22. And now we copied this object to another object is called as employee3. So while we calling this employee3 display, we may get to the definition part, and this definition part we are going to have the same employee2 details. So employee1 detail is displayed, employee2 detail is displayed, and now finally all the things are executed successfully. Now the destructor part will be executed by default, and this is proceeds with the tilde symbol, same name as class name. If the class may have only one destructor, so more than one destructor will not be present for the single class, so the only one destructor will be present anywhere of the program. You can mention as a destructor, but it will execute at the last. So this extra destructor part will be proceeds with the tilde symbol, same name as a class name, and braces. And here we have to execute this destructor. So I already said the first destructor will be executed based on the reverse order of the object creation. We created this third object is at last, so that will be deleted at first, and this employee2 we created another object, so that will be deleted at second, and finally the employee1 object will be deleted. So that is what we are getting, deleting employee, deleting employee, deleting employee. So in the given class we created three constructor part with the help of the three different objects, but still only one destructor is there to destroying the all objects whatever we created for the given class. So this method is used to create the constructor overloading. So thank you for watching my channel. I hope you understand the concept of constructor, copy constructor, parameters constructor, dynamic constructor, shallow copy, and deep copy. In the next video I'd like to explain about the concept of polymorphism. Thank you for watching. Thank you.